Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So today's reading, Srimad Bhagavatam reading, Canto 2, Chapter 3, Text 22. We're still in this chapter, Pure Devotional Service to Change in Heart.
Yeah. So say the invocation?
Yes. Om
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Text 22. The eyes which do not look at the symbolic representations of the personality of Godhead Vishnu, his forms, name, quality, etc., are like those printed on the plumes of a peacock, and the legs which do not move to the holy places where the Lord is remembered are considered to be like tree trunks. Purports. Especially for the household of devotees, the path of deity worship is strongly recommended. As far as possible, every householder, by the direction of the spiritual master, must install the deity of Vishnu. Forms like Radha Krishna, Lakshmi Narayan or Sita Ram especially, or any other form of the Lord, like Nrsimha, Varaha, Nitai, Matsya, Kurma, Shalagram Shila, and many other forms of Vishnu like Trivikram, Keshava, Achyuta, Vasudev, Narayan and Damodar, as they are recommended in the Vaishnav Tantras or Puranas. And one should worship the deity with one's family, following the directions and regulations of Archana Vidhi. Any member of the family who is above 12 years old should be initiated by a bona fide spiritual master, and all the members of the household should be engaged in the daily service of the Lord, beginning from morning 4 a.m.
Wow.
till night 10 p.m. 10 p.m. by performing Manga Arati, Nirajana, Archana, Puja, Kirtan, Shringara, Bhoga Vaikali, Sandhya Arati, Partha, Bhoga at night, Sanaya, Arati, etc. Jeepers. You'd never get out of the house. Engagement in such worship of the deity under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master will greatly help the householders to purify their very existence and make rapid progress in spiritual knowledge. Simple theoretical book knowledge is not sufficient for a neophyte devotee. Book knowledge is theoretical, whereas the
Archana has no sound.
Whereas the Archana process, I don't know. Whereas the Archana process is practical. Spiritual knowledge must be developed by a combination of theoretical and practical knowledge, and that is a guaranteed way for attainment of spiritual perfection. Can you hear us, whoever's watching?
Well, it's me.
Oh.
There it goes.
Alright, do you want to read or? So, okay. The training of devotional service for a neophyte devotee completely depends on the expert spiritual master who knows how to lead his disciple to make gradual progress on the path back home to Godhead. One should not become a pseudo-spiritual master as a matter of business to meet one's spiritual expenditures. One must be an expert spiritual master to deliver the disciple from the clutches of impending death. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has defined the bona fide qualities of a spiritual master. One of the verses in that description reads, Shri Vigraha Radhana Nityanana Shringaratan Mandira Majanadu Yuktasya Bhaktam Shaniyunjapi
Mande Guru
Shri Charanara. Shri Vigraha is the Archana or suitable worshipful form of the Lord, and the disciple should be engaged in worshipping the deity regularly by Shringara, proper decoration and dressing, as also by Mandira Marjana, the matter of cleansing the deity temple. The spiritual master teaches the neophyte devotee all these kindly and personally to help him gradually in the realization of the transcendental name, quality, form, etc. of the Lord.
Some very powerful statements here about householders and worshipping the deity. Almost controversial in one sense, I guess you could say, about installing Radha Krishna deities. Using the word installing, Srila Prabhupada is using. Often we say welcoming, but I think the deity worship ministry says that more or less the installation occurs as soon as one begins to worship, and encouraging these deities at home so that basically the home becomes a temple, and mainly the family is fully engaged in the worship of the Lord, keeping the Lord in the center. So it's really powerful. I mean, the point about, here comes this, the point about, what is it, rising at 4 a.m. and going until 10 p.m. by performing Mangal Arti, Niranjan, Archan, Puja, Kirtan, Shringar, Bhog, Vaikalya, Sanya Arti, and Prabhupada spelling Arti is Aratrika, which is interesting. We often say Arti, but it's Aratrika. Pata, Boga, at night, Shayan, Aratrika. I mean...
Well, it's Arti in this one.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, it's like a full-on schedule for a household. The deities are in the center and they're receiving full worship, and everything is centered around them, so it's really powerful. Anything?
Yeah, it's just kind of controversial point, but I've always been told you don't worship Radha Krishna at home, Shalagram or anything. At the very least, you can put Gaur Nitai. So, you know, where's that come from then? I mean, that's from authorities.
Yeah. I think the idea is that certainly one should be qualified, but Srila Prabhupada, whether he was mentioning like householders who are like Brahmin initiated, qualified, trained up householders, or whether he meant anyone who's a householder, it's better that they have deities in the house excuse me, and worship them than to not have deities in the house. So, but yeah, I mean, I've also always heard that, and if you live near a temple, it's better that you worship the temple deities than all your time is consumed with worshiping the home deity, and then the deity in the temple is not looked after. So that's also another thing. And I guess with many things, of course, yeah, Prabhupada would have written this after his arrival in the U.S. But I guess with many things, there's always the application, and for the application of instructions, that's when we need the expert guidance and advice of a bona fide spiritual master and proper authorities. So it's not that one size fits all, or like that. So
yeah.
Okay, so we'll continue reading. Only attention engaged in the service of the Lord, especially in dressing and decorating the temple, accompanied by musical kirtan and spiritual instructions from scriptures, can save the common man from the hellish cinema attractions and rubbish sex songs broadcast everywhere by radios. I mean, just that one sentence is so powerful. Basically saying attention engaged in the service of the Lord, especially dressing, decorating the temple, accompanied by kirtan, instructions from scripture. Only that can save us from basically modern, especially Western society. If one is unable to maintain a temple at home, he should go to another's temple where all the above performances are regularly executed. Visiting the temple of a devotee and looking at the profusely decorated forms of the Lord, well-dressed in a well-decorated, sanctified temple, naturally infuse the mundane mind with spiritual inspiration. People should visit holy places like Vrindavan, where such temples and worship of the deity are specifically maintained. Formerly, all rich men, little like kings and rich merchants, constructed such temples under the direction of expert devotees of the Lord, like the 6 Goswamis. And it is the duty of the common man to take advantage of these temples and festivals observed in the holy places of pilgrimage by following on the footsteps of great devotees, Anubraja. One should not visit all these sanctified pilgrimage places and temples with sightseeing in mind, but one must go to such temples and sanctified places immortalized by the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, and be guided by proper men who know the science. This is called anuvraja. Anu means to follow. It is therefore best to follow the instructions of the bona fide spiritual master, even in visiting temples and holy places of pilgrimage. One who does not move in that way is as good as a standing tree condemned by the Lord not to move. The moving tendency of the human being is misused by visiting places for sightseeing. The best purpose of such traveling tendencies could be fulfilled by visiting the holy places established by great acharyas, and thereby not being misled by the atheistic propaganda of money-making men who have no knowledge of spiritual matters. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai. Text 23.
Wish he said what Anu meant, but it would have been nice if he explained Vraja. I don't know if that's mentioned in the verse.
Yes, it says Anu means to follow.
Yeah. In the word for word it says Anu Vraja Taha, go after. But Vraja, Vrajas, what does that mean?
Vraj.
Braj, okay. Yeah. So follow Braj. Okay.
Text 23. The person who has not at any time received the dust of the feet of the Lord's pure devotee upon his head is certainly a dead body. And the person who has never experienced the aroma of the tulasi leaves from the lotus feet of the Lord is also a dead body, although breathing. Purport. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the breathing dead body is a ghost. When a man dies, he is called dead. But when he again appears in a subtle form, not visible to our present vision and yet acts, such a dead body is called a ghost. Ghosts are always very bad elements, always creating a fearful situation for others. Similarly, the ghost-like non-devotees who have no respect for the pure devotees nor for the Vishnu deity in the temples creates a fearful situation for the devotees at all times. The Lord never accepts any offering by such impure ghosts. Wow. There is a common saying that one should first love the dog of the beloved before one shows any loving sentiments for the beloved. The stage of pure devotion is attained by sincerely serving a pure devotee of the Lord. The first condition of devotional service to the Lord is therefore to be a servant of a pure devotee, and this condition is fulfilled by the statement, reception of the dust of the lotus feet of a pure devotee who has also served another pure devotee. That is the way of pure disciplic succession or devotional parampara.
Maharaj Rahugana inquired from the great saint Jad Bharat as to how he had attained such a liberated stage of Paramahamsa. And in answer, the great saint replied as follows from the Bhagavatam 5:12:12. Rahuganai tat tapasa na yati na cheyaya nirvapadanad grihadva na chandasa naiva jalagni suryaya vina mahatpada rajo vishekam. O King Rahugana, the perfectional stage of devotional service, or the Paramahamsa stage of life, cannot be obtained or cannot be attained unless one is blessed by the dust of the feet of great devotees. It is never attained by tapasya, austerity. The Vedic worshipping process, acceptance of the renounced order of life, the discharge of the duties of household life, the chanting of the Vedic hymns, or the performance of penances in the hot sun within cold water or before the blazing fire. Basically, there is no austerity that can take us to the Paramahamsa platform. It's simply by the dust of the feet of great devotees. That's pretty powerful. So that means that
mercy.
Mercy. That means if we offend the dust of the lotus feet of the devotees, then there's not really much hope for us.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very potent. Mine says there's a paragraph break there. Here's that.
In other words, Lord Sri Krishna is the property of his pure unconditional devotees, and as such only the devotees can deliver Krishna to another devotee. Krishna is never obtainable directly. Lord Chaitanya therefore designated himself as Gopi Bhattashada Kamala Dasa Nudas, or the most obedient servant of the servants of the Lord, who maintains the Gopi damsels at Vrindavan. The pure devotee therefore never approaches the Lord directly, but tries to please the servant of the Lord's servants. And thus the Lord becomes pleased, and only then can the devotee relish the taste of the tulasi leaves stuck to his lotus feet. In the Brahma Samhita it is said that the Lord is never to be found by becoming a great devotee of the Vedic literatures, but he is very easily approachable through his pure devotee. In Vrindavan, all the pure devotees pray for the mercy of Srimati Radharani, the pleasure potency of Lord Krishna. Srimati Radharani is a tender-hearted feminine counterpart of the Supreme Whole, resembling the perfectional stage of the worldly feminine nature. Therefore, the mercy of Radharani is available very readily to the sincere devotees, and once she recommends such a devotee to Lord Krishna, the Lord at once accepts the devotee's admittance into his association. The conclusion is therefore that one should be more serious about seeking the mercy of the devotee than that of the Lord directly. And by one's doing so, by the goodwill of the devotee, the natural attraction for the service of the Lord will be revived. So we're just mercy cases, really. And we're only as good as the tolerance of the devotees around us. That's I think I don't want to. I think when I first started coming, maybe it was Shiva Maharaj or someone said something like that. You know, you're only as good as the tolerant. You know, I have to remember the exact thing. It was quite powerful. As much as the devotees tolerate you, that's your qualification or something. You know, it's quite powerful.
Yeah. Interesting point here also about that pure devotee therefore never approaches directly but tries to please the servant of the servants, and then the devotee can relish the taste of the tulsi leaves stuck to his lotus feet. That's really beautiful. And then also the mention of Srimati Radharani and how in Vrindavan everyone wants Radharani's mercy, because if Radharani takes notice of you, and then she'll refer you to Krishna, and if she refers you to Krishna, then you're a made man, made woman, made person.
Yes.
Not like a maid that cleans, but maid, M-A-D-E. Maid.
Well, you become a maid, don't you? Manjari or?
Well, maid servant.
Yeah.
Maid servant. Okay. Text 24. And it's all these verses in succession are very, very famous and well known. There's another one. Certainly the heart is steel framed, which in spite of one's chanting the holy name of the Lord with concentration does not change when ecstasy takes place. Tears fill the eyes and the hairs stand on end. Yeah, so it's very poetic and visual verse. And this purport is very amazing, especially for the struggling devotee, so you can listen with rapt attention. Probably finish with this. Okay. We should note with profit that in the first 3 chapters of the second canto, a gradual process of development of devotional service is being presented. In the first chapter, the first step in devotional service for God consciousness by the process of hearing and chanting has been stressed, and a gross conception of the personality of Godhead in His universal form for the beginners is recommended. By such a gross conception of God through the material manifestation of His energy, one is enabled to spiritualize the mind and senses and gradually concentrate the mind upon Lord Vishnu, the Supreme, who is present as a supersoul in every heart and everywhere, in every atom of the material universe. The system of Pancha Upasana, recommending 5 mental attitudes for the common man, is also enacted for this purpose, namely gradual development, worship of the superior that may be in the form of fire, electricity, the sun, the mass of living beings, Lord Shiva, at last the impersonal supersoul, the partial representation of Lord Vishnu. They are all nicely described in the 2nd chapter, but in the 3rd chapter, further development is prescribed after one has actually reached the stage of Vishnu worship, or pure devotional service. And the mature stage of Vishnu worship is suggested here in relation to the change of heart.
The whole process of spiritual culture is aimed at changing the heart of the living being in the matter of his eternal relation with the Supreme Lord as subordinate servant, which is his eternal constitutional position. So with the progress of devotional service, the reaction of change in the heart is exhibited by gradual detachment from the sense of material enjoyment by a false sense of lording it over the world, and an increase in the attitude of rendering loving service to the Lord. Vidhi Bhakti, or regulated devotional service by the limbs of the body, namely the eyes, the ears, the nose, the hands and the legs, as already explained herein before, is now stressed herein in relation to the mind, which is the impetus for all activities of the limbs of the body. It is expected by all means that by discharging regulated devotional service, one must manifest a change of heart. If there is no such change, the heart must be considered steel-framed, for it is not melted, even when there is chanting of the holy name of the Lord. We must always remember that hearing and chanting are the basic principles of discharging devotional duties. And if they are properly performed, there will follow the reactional ecstasy with signs of tears in the eyes and standing of the hairs on the body. These are natural consequences and are the preliminary symptoms of the Bhava stage, which occurs before one reaches the perfectional stage of prema, love of Godhead.
Yes, so simple process for making spiritual advancement is hearing and chanting. So what we're doing now, hearing and chanting. But it's qualified by the words, if they are properly performed. So that's an important word. One word in that qualifies that, we have to really be attentive in our hearing and chanting and doing it regularly. Ahoitukiya pratihata, that it's unmotivated and uninterrupted. It's also there. Anything?
No, I agree.
If the reaction does not take place, okay, here we go. Even after continuous hearing and chanting of the holy name of the Lord, it may be considered to be due to offenses only. That is the opinion of the Sandarbha. In the beginning of chanting of the holy name of the Lord, if the devotee has not been careful about evading the 10 kinds of offenses.
You got evading.
Yeah. Avoiding or evading the 10 kinds of offenses at the feet of the holy name, certainly the reaction of feelings of separation will not be visible by tears in the eyes and standing of the hair on end. So, there you go. You have to guard against the 10 offenses. Like sincerely guard against the 10 offenses. We may chant them every morning, we may know them, but we really genuinely try to avoid
Put
them
in practice.
Yeah, or put in practice to avoid them, not put them in practice. Sachinandan Maharaj explains that the the best way to avoid something is by doing the opposite of it. So like the first offense is to blaspheme the devotees of the Lord. So the best way to avoid committing that offense is to glorify the devotees of the Lord. Second offense is to consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, to be greater than or equal to the name of Lord Vishnu. So then we should, glorify the name of Lord Vishnu and make sure that we stick to that, not disrespect the demigods, but at the same time we have to glorify the Lord. Disobeying the orders of spiritual masters, offense 3. So we have to obey the orders of the spiritual masters. So like that. There you go, and there you have it. The list goes on.
The Bhava stage is manifested by 8 transcendental symptoms, namely inertness, perspiration, standing of hairs on end. My hair is always standing on end.
Especially in this wind.
Failing of the voice, trembling, paleness of the body, tears in the eyes, and finally trance. The nectar of devotion, a summary study of Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, explains those symptoms and vividly describes other transcendental developments, both in steady and accelerating manifestations.
Explains symptoms, steady and accelerating manifestations. That's interesting. Means once those things manifest, I guess they should be
very consistent,
but at the same time
moving,
progressing
ahead,
always.
Alright, we're in the middle of a cyclone.
Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur very critically discussed all these bhava displays in connection with some unscrupulous neophytes imitating the above symptoms for cheap appreciation. Not only Vishwanath Chakravarti, but also Srila Rupa Goswami treated them very critically. Sometimes all the above 8 symptoms of ecstasy are imitated by the mundane devotees, Prakriti Sahajiyas. But the pseudo-symptoms are at once detected when one sees the pseudo-devotee addicted to so many forbidden things. Even though decorated with the signs of a devotee, a person addicted to smoking, drinking, or illegitimate sex with women cannot have all the above mentioned ecstatic symptoms. But it is seen that sometimes these symptoms are willfully imitated, and for this reason Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti accuses the imitators of being stone-hearted men. They are sometimes even affected by the reflection of such transcendental symptoms. Yet, if they still do not give up the forbidden habits, then they are hopeless cases for transcendental realization.
When Lord Chaitanya met Srila Ramananda Ray of Kavur on the bank of the Godavari, the Lord developed all these symptoms, but because of the presence of some non-devotee brahmanas who were attendants of the Raya, the Lord suppressed these symptoms. So sometimes they are not visible even in the body of a first-class devotee for certain circumstantial reasons. Therefore, real steady bhava is definitely displayed in the matter of cessation of material desires, kasanti, utilization of every moment in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, avyata kalatvam, eagerness for glorifying the Lord constantly, nama gani sada ruchi, attraction for living in the land of the Lord. Wow.
This isn't the land of the Lord exactly, I guess.
British Tadvasati
garbage
Stali. Complete detachment from material happiness, virapti, and pridelessness, mana sanyuta. One who has developed all these transcendental qualities is really possessed of the bhava stage, as distinguished from the stone-hearted imitator or mundane devotee.
So, yeah, these things really require some deeper study, I think, and how to measure them practically in one's life, sort of like an annual MOT. Spiritual mechanisms or mechanics still in order, or do I need a tune-up, which is required right about now. Okay, last paragraph. The whole process can be summarized as follows. The advanced devotee who chants the holy name of the Lord in a perfectly offenseless manner and is friendly to everyone can actually relish the transcendental taste of glorifying the Lord. And the result of such realization is reflected in the cessation of all material desires, etc., as mentioned above. The neophytes, due to their being in the lower stage of devotional service, are invariably envious, so much so that they invent their own ways and means of devotional regulations without following the acharyas. As such, even if they make a show of constantly chanting the holy name of the Lord, they cannot relish the transcendental taste of the holy name. Therefore, the show of tears in the eyes, trembling, perspiration, unconsciousness, etc., is condemned. They can, however, get in touch with the pure devotee of the Lord and rectify their bad habits. Otherwise, they shall continue to be stone-hearted and unfit. They shall continue to be stone-hearted and unfit for any treatment. Last sentence. A complete progressive march on the return path home back to Godhead will depend on instructions of the revealed scriptures directed by a realized devotee. And that is a powerful statement. So, let's see. Yeah.
Like Prabhupada.
Yeah, like Prabhupada. Powerful. Okay, so I think that's...
No, let's finish the chapter.
Oh, the chapter. Okay, got it. Yeah, perfect. I didn't know this. Go ahead.
So this is the final verse of the chapter. Text 25. O Sutta Goswami, your words are pleasing to our minds. Please therefore explain this to us as it was spoken by the great devotee Sukadeva Goswami, who is very expert in transcendental knowledge and who spoke to Maharaj Pariksha upon being asked. Purport. Knowledge explained by the previous acharya like Sukadeva Goswami and followed by the next like Sutta Goswami is always powerful transcendental knowledge, and it is therefore penetrating and useful to all submissive students.
Thus in the Bhaktivedanta purports of the second canto, third chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Pure Devotional Service, the Change in Heart.
Wow.
Wonderful. So we'll be starting chapter 4 next, and this is called The Process of Creation. And now we'll get into a whole section in the second canto, which is all about creation and very technical, very deep. So we'll have to get you all to keep posted and stay tuned in. As you can see, we're in the material creation here. So thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.